Chief Secretary of perverting the course of justice, while Ansel Dennis calls the Chief Secretary desperate and, according to the opposition leader, Dr. Rowley incriminated himself. Good evening, I am Kristen Salandi, and welcome to the Tobago Updates television news for Thursday, 20th of July, 2023. Topping the news tonight. After issuing a statement of denial yesterday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley hosted a press conference today to address the claims from Chief Secretary Fali Augustine in full. He raised concerns about the use of the standing orders in the Assembly legislature to present video and audio clips of a whistleblower. Here is Luke James Trim with the details.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley expressed shock about the allegations made by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. He accused Augustine of trying to redirect attention away from investigations into the Audiogate scandal.
What he would have done, and he is now being accused of, is taking personal steps by his production of that situation to suborn testimony to undermine an ongoing police investigation where he is a person under investigation with serious charges likely or possibly to come his way.
Dr. Rowley claimed that Mr. Augustine, through his grandstanding, has put himself above the law. He further stated that the Chief Secretary does not have the right under law or provisions of the Assembly to do what was done during the special sitting.
The privileges and immunities provided to members of the Parliament are rooted in the Constitution. Very deep roots and protections, where privilege is afforded to members of the House for all the good reasons spelled out there in the law, letter and spirit.
Describing the events as an abuse of the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Rowley then posed questions to the presiding officer, Ms. Abby Taylor. He questioned whether the standing orders were followed correctly.
A statement is required to be made. It falls to the presiding officer to follow a standing order. I know of no provision in the Tobago House of Assembly Act to allow the presiding officer to approve, even though in her own discretion, that the Chief Secretary could go and suborn testimony from person or persons unknown. In parliamentary language, that is called a stranger. Those of you who come to the National Parliament will know that if you're in the gallery, you are referred to as a stranger because you have absolutely no right inside the house. And you can take no part in the proceedings. You can't even laugh if somebody give a joke. And if you clear your throat too loudly, you can be asked to leave the chamber and you're identified by the chair as that stranger.
Dr. Rowley again denied the allegations made against him.
I deny every syllable of allegation as produced there by the Chief Secretary in the proceedings of the Assembly yesterday. I have not met with that person. I have not met with Gilbert Peterson in any proceedings of that nature. I have not sat with Ansel Dennis in any meeting to discuss any such thing. And I certainly have given no instruction to the police as to how to conduct or who to have warrants for or where warrants are to be executed.
The Prime Minister then challenged citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to come forward with evidence that contradicts his statements.
I would once again say to the country that if any person could provide any evidence to contradict anything I have said about my own conduct, I will resign this office immediately. And I said truthful, because I don't know what is the next thing the Chief Secretary will do.
The Prime Minister announced he will be taking legal action against both the Chief Secretary and the Assembly legislature over the allegations. I am Luke James Shrim reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
We are being joined live with former presiding officer Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, who will help us understand what happened in the House yesterday. Good evening, Dr. Soyafat Angus.
Good evening.
Was the Prime Minister correct in saying that the standing orders were abused to facilitate yesterday's sitting?
Absolutely. They were abused. And what normally should happen is that any statement that the chief secretary or any member wishes to make, they must submit it to the presiding officer, and it has to be approved by the presiding officer, and then the statement read as is in the House. So the presiding officer must have known that all of what was coming through, and would have condoned what went on in the House. And the problem with it also is that you cannot bring a member of conduct, the conduct of a member of uh, the THA, the Parliament, the Prime Minister, the judiciary, the President. You cannot bring the conduct of any of those members into question as in the form of a statement. It must come in the form of a motion and a debate. And that is Standing Order 45.8.
Thank you. Can the Chief Secretary and the presiding officer face legal consequences for facilitating the sitting?
I would think so, because there are intricacies there, even though, I mean, it's a number of things. The mere fact that, the chief secretary would have taken this person's information or recorded them without their knowledge, and also brought it into the chamber without the person's knowledge, and the type of accusations that were made inside of there.
Okay, can you further tell us what are the rules for convening a special sitting?
The rules for convening a special sitting would be that the chief secretary can write to the presiding officer through the clerk, or 1/3 of the House can sign and make a request for the sitting.
Can they be called before the privilege committee?
Both the
Yes, both the chief secretary and the presiding officer.
Yes, in theory they can. The challenge with that is that you would have to put it to a vote, and of course the House, the chief secretary has the majority in the House, so you will never get it approved, which is why they were able to muzzle the minority leader inside of the sit-in when he also asked for the standing orders to be suspended so he can ask more than one question, and they voted no on it. So he may move that motion, but it wouldn't get anywhere because they have the majority rule in there. And that is why we need to question the type of democratic framework that we have.
Thank you. And can you share your personal thoughts on the situation?
Well, I said earlier today that the chief secretary is reckless and dangerous in terms of his actions in this whole situation. And it may have been motivated by desperation, or maybe a bit of arrogance, petulance, whatever it is. At the end of the day, it was reckless and dangerous because it goes further. If you are calling this gentleman a whistleblower and you have stated that you recorded him without his knowledge and put it on a public platform, what about all those other whistleblowers out there? Are they now going to come forward, or are they going to be hesitant? And therefore, we have lost that opportunity to bring that whistleblowers act into into reality, because people are not going to be willing to come forward because they will not trust the process.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soyapal Angus, for your contribution. Stay with us. More to come when we return.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. Look up below, 'cause this is your show. Live more.
Come one, come all. It's time to join in the Tobago Heritage Festival 2023. Homage. All are we and all are who we be. To Tobago. Indulge in the awesomeness that is embodied in the spirit of Tobago at the 36th Tobago Heritage Festival. Celebrate a rich, vibrant, hypnotic showcase of our cultural legacy. Yes, from July 21st to August 1st, 2023. Take the island tour. Sample the sumptuous variety of local indigenous delicacies. Enjoy the recreation of old-time village life. Dance to the drum. Feel the rhythm of steel pan. Experience the way of life, languages, and oral traditions. Be part of the journey to our we heritage, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and inspiring our future. Relive our unique culture. Join in the preservation of the heritage of we island of Tobago.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
The only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Back to the Tobago Updates television news. The opposition leader accused Prime Minister Dr. Rowley of incriminating himself. Dr. Rowley addressed the nation this afternoon and sought to clear his name following allegations made against him by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. Here is more in this report from Luke James Trim.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley expressed shock about the allegations made by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. He accused Augustine of trying to redirect attention away from investigations into the Audiogate scandal. Dr. Rowley claimed that Mr. Augustine, through his grandstanding, has put himself above the law. He further stated that the Chief Secretary does not have the right under law or provisions of the Assembly to do what was done during the special sitting. Describing the events as an abuse of the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Rowley then posed questions to the presiding officer, Ms. Abby Taylor. He questioned whether the standing orders were followed correctly. Dr. Rowley again denied the allegations made against him. The Prime Minister then challenged citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to come forward with evidence that contradicts his statements. The Prime Minister announced he will be taking legal action against both the Chief Secretary and the Assembly Legislature over the allegations. I am Luke James Shrim reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
Rants of a dangerous and desperate Chief Secretary is how the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, Ansel Dennis, described the damning allegations made by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine in the House. Dennis hosted a press conference today where he denied taking any part in a plot to discredit the Fali Augustine-led administration. Here is Candice Jackson with the details.
Political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, Ansel Dennis, did not have any kind words to say about Chief Secretary Fali Augustine while addressing allegations made against him.
People of Tobago, we must recognize and understand that we are being led at this time by a dangerous and desperate Chief Secretary.
Dennis was accused of coercing Akil Abdullah into leaking the infamous audio clip, which was part of a plot to discredit the Fali Augustine-led administration.
Let me also refute and deny every single statement made and implied by the Chief Secretary and the individual who was captured in that video to suggest that people were approached and paid for information.
It is alleged that Abdullah was paid over $270,000 for his cooperation in the plot and that Dennis was the one to take Abdullah to meet the Prime Minister and other high-ranking officials to further the plans.
Let me also say that nobody was taken by me to meet with any Prime Minister. All of that are simply lies and fabrications.
The Chief Secretary also implicated the Commissioner of Police, Earl Christopher, and other police officers in the allegations. Dennis said that the police were legitimately doing their job and accused the Chief Secretary of undermining the integrity of the police.
Destroy the credibility of the TTPS, destroy the credibility of the judiciary, so that if perhaps the situation he might be charged, he can continue to cling on and hold on to office improperly.
After weeks of heavy criticism over the AudioGate scandal, Augustine received high praise for his support from Tobagonians at the Assembly Legislature. However, Dennis warned Tobagonians to not be fooled by it.
Pandering to his supporters, some of them very disrespectful yesterday, to assemblymen and even members of the media, and I'm saying to those people, consider your ways. This is not the kind of Tobago we wish to develop.
Dennis likened the situation to Section 34 and said he awaits the outcome of the police investigations into the Chief Secretary. I am Candice Jackson reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
More news after the break. Stay with us.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard, I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported. Good morning. Put a smile on your
Thank you for staying with us. Attention has shifted to three high-ranking officials in Trinidad and Tobago, according to political analyst Winford James. He shared his perspective on the bombshell allegations made by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine at a special plenary sitting. Here is reporter Bianna Brebner with more details.
The spotlight is now on Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, Commissioner of Police Earl Christopher, and the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, Ansel Dennis. This is the view of the political analyst Winford James.
What the Secretary has done is to turn the narrative that started with Audiogate, to turn that away from him and to focus it now on the Prime Minister, the Commissioner of Police, some other police officers, but those two persons or officials in particular. The spotlight now has been shifted from the Chief Secretary to a certain extent and has now been placed on these high officials.
All three individuals have denied the allegations.
What we expected them to do, they have done. They have denied the allegations. So they chose the path of deniability.
James said that the Chief Secretary is left to question the credibility of Akil Abdullah, which is the primary source of his information. With the bombshell allegation now attracting public attention, he stated it must be taken seriously.
But we can't escape the court of public opinion. And we are happy that the public is really the court. Because, you know, there must be a way of talking about the issue, hearing what other people are saying, and consensuses being built as a result of the conversation. Conversation is good, especially in political matters.
In 2014, the Prime Minister used parliamentary privileges to address the lower house about the email gate. It was done in a particular fashion to the Chief Secretary on Wednesday. James also drew parallels between Emailgate and Audiogate. He said that he expected action from the Director of Public Prosecution about the future of the investigations. He also anticipates Augustine writing to international bodies for assistance in treating with the allegations. I am Biana Brebner, reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
Former Assemblyman Gerald McFarlane is appalled by the revelations made by the Chief Secretary at the special sitting of the Chamber on Wednesday. McFarlane gave his perspective on the issue on the Tobago Updates Good Morning Tobago show. Here is more on this story from Luke James Trim.
Former Assemblyman Gerald McFarlane stated that he had not expected this level of seriousness to occur in the legislature on Wednesday. He described it as a scandalous situation that should not be taken lightly, and he is concerned about the comments made by the Prime Minister.
A serious thing like that, you know, I mean, this thing is supposed to be investigated thoroughly, and I would expect that, you know, we find a way to avoid these kind of things in the future. I mean, these things, people plot against political parties, you know, continue to plot against one another by doing all sorts of nefarious things.
McFarlane stated that this issue is not good for politics or governance, and it imputes improper motives. He added that the police are taking political instructions to search the homes and offices of political opponents. This, he added, cannot come from someone without authority, alluding to the Prime Minister being involved.
And all of us are convinced that it was political instructions from someone high up that gave the police these instructions or insisted that they operate in this particular way. It's a very high-handed approach to this Emailgate investigation. So you'll wonder how much this thing will be covered up. This new scandal will be covered up, and it's clear that they were instructed to make these statements.
McFarlane stated he wants the political bodies to stop fighting and work along with each other.
Discussion with the THA and the government, so that at least peace and respect will prevail, and then we could understand how we can move to get progress done. Without peace, without trust, you can't get things done because you always feel uncomfortable with each other. You hear the Prime Minister indicated that he don't want to have no discussion with Fali without a third party. You know, that is sowing seeds of discord and distrust.
He stated that the formation of proper and healthy relations must be formed between the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary.
But at the same time, we got to a point where people sat down like big men, serious people with their responsibilities and the people to please and satisfy, and had that discussion. And I'm saying what is so difficult especially with a prime minister who born and grew here in this place, and a young, ambitious chief secretary who wants to serve the people in a particular way. Why the two of them can't sit down and have a serious discussion?
McFarlane believes that this formation is critical for the effective governance of Tobago. Luke James Shrim reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
Accusations made by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine are evidence that the Prime Minister is a dictator. This, according to the opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar and political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, Gary Griffith. They were addressing supporters at a UNC rally in Port of Spain. Here is Candice Jackson with more details.
Yesterday, it was me. The date is Farley Augustine. Tomorrow, it could be you.
Political leader of the NTA, Gary Griffith, claimed that while he was Commissioner of Police, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley tried to instruct him to act unethically.
The man went and pumped $45 million into the police account and directed me to tell me to put a hire and to target political opponents in an investigation. Any other country in the world, there will be a snap election. What that man has done is similar to dictatorship.
Griffith said he refused to go along with the Prime Minister on that on other similar occasions. Since then, Griffith became the subject of heavy criticism by Dr. Rowley for his performance as Commissioner of Police.
So when Keith Rowley says I was his biggest mistake, it is because I was not a political puppet as a Commissioner of Police. Trinidad and Tobago, yesterday it was me. Today it is Farley Augustine. Tomorrow it could be you. We have to understand what is happening in this country.
On Wednesday, Chief Secretary Farley Augustine divulged information about a plot to bring down the administration during a special sitting of the Assembly Legislature. It involves several high-ranking officials, including the Prime Minister and the current Commissioner of Police, Earl Christopher. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar called for answers.
Don't say you were not warned. They will use anything they can against whom they see as political opponents, and that's what they did. For months I've been warning and warning that the hierarchy of the police service, some of them, is in collusion with the PNM to persecute political opponents.
According to Persad-Bissessar, the Chief Secretary's allegations are indicative of a dictatorship within the country.
Only in dictatorships you have the Prime Minister interacting one-on-one with senior police officers, asking them to do his bidding.
I am Candice Jackson reporting for Tobago Updates Television News.
This has been your Tobago Updates Television News. Before we go, here are the headlines once more. Prime Minister accuses Chief Secretary of perverting the course of justice, while Ansel Dennis calls the Chief Secretary desperate. And, according to the opposition leader, Dr. Rowley incriminated himself. I am Kristen Salandi. Have a good night.